Today we revisit my nemesis, a Nortel Enterprise Edge 1000. This is a PBX phone system first produced in the late 1990s, which can allow many internal digital phones, such as these, to link up with analog phones internally managed by the machine, as well as the outside world via a telecom provider. In a previous video, basically all I could get this thing to do was power on. I had a ton of headaches getting the Business Communication Manager, or BCM software, on there. But now I'm armed with some new old stock drives from Nortel that already have the software baked in. We'll get this thing booting, and then a new challenger will appear, the Media Services Card, or MSC. This overly complicated device, sporting 4 PC MCIA cards, does all the telephony processing, and the unit is basically a boat anchor without this thing working. Spoilers, it's not going to go so well. But along the way, we'll get way more familiar with this machine, wire up some 66 blocks, and maybe even find him a friend. Let's get into it. I'm back looking at this Nortel Networks Enterprise Edge 1000. I want to get it working and get some phones hooked up to it. Now this thing is a PBX, meaning you can take in some analog phone lines from your telecom provider with these ports up here, and you can distribute those to a bunch of phones with this thing down here. So you get a Cat 3 cable with one of these amp connectors on it, and you can break it out into all your phones. Now these are digital telephones. So you've got regular analog lines coming in here, but down here, you can't just plug in a regular old telephone. It needs to be a special type. I also believe it would have come with a network card in here, which of course I don't have. Now this looks like a network port, but it's not. It's a trick. I'll tell you about that later. I think this thing is capable of doing VoIP if you've got a network adapter, meaning you could intersperse IP phones, the analog phones, and the hardwired digital phones. I don't think we're going to do any VoIP stuff today, but we might need to get a network card in here to manage this thing. Not really sure yet. Now, if you're getting deja vu, that's because I did a video on this before trying to get it working, and I essentially failed. The only copy of the software I could find that run on this thing was a ghost image that was maybe corrupt or something. I fought with it over and over again, could never really get it working. Then, of course, I didn't have any digital phones. I've since remedied that. And there's been some other saucy developments. A bunch of people reached out with better images of the software I need. We'll talk about the software in a second. And then someone actually emailed me with a full-blown VM image that they had gotten working with some instructions on how to do that. So worst case scenario, we'll just play around with that. So huge thanks to those guys. And then Devin reached out with some new old stock hard drives baked in with the software we need straight from Nortel. You could buy these as an upgrade or a replacement part for the unit over here. And you'll see at the top it says it's BCM 3.5 and then BCM 1000. The naming is a little confusing on these things. This is a really early unit. It was built in 1999. They used to call it the Enterprise Edge 1000. Eventually they renamed it the BCM 1000. BCM stands for Business Communications Manager. And guess what the software is called? It's also called BCM. So we're going to try to run BCM 3.5, the software, on this physical BCM 1000. Nice job, Nortel. Look, it's the late 90s, early 2000s. Nortel didn't have time for a marketing department. They were too busy committing financial fraud. But that's not really what this video is about. We're going to have a look at these phones. Also need to figure out how to hook the phones up, which should be pretty fun. We don't really need to use a 66 block, but kind of looking for an excuse. Then we'll take a look at all these hard drives Devin sent in. I believe they're all BCM hard drives. Now I have what I believe is a legitimate image of this one. In a Patreon video shortly after the first one, I took a full image of that 20 gig drive with something called Superclone, and I believe it's legit, but I couldn't really figure out how to mount it or write it to this little janky SD card adapter thing I've got. But I do believe I have a good image of this. Plus the BCM 3.5 software, I've got other archived versions of that were sent in by folks. So I think we're safe there. We're probably just going to pop this in after we have a look at these drives. And I'm not like these other Patreon guys, folks. I actually post legitimate videos. That video was over 20 minutes long. So if you really want to support the channel, I'm on Patreon. But all I actually care about are subscribers. I'm on the road to 100,000. I'd really like to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. It's kind of my only goal. Where else are you going to see some guy in his basement dealing with 66 blocks, Meridian M7208s, and a BCM 1000 that's missing a hard drive? Like and subscribe. Let's start with the phones. These are some model M7208s, and I was looking in the documentation for a BCM 1000. It calls them legacy phones, but they are compatible. So these are old even by the 1999 BCM 1000 standard, as what I'm reading from that. And while they are the same model, I was lucky enough on eBay. I think the guy was selling a bunch of them, and I just said I want 2 of them. And I got 2 different variants, which I love. This is the older model. It's got the Meridian branding on it. Meridian was a system from Nortel way back in the day, the 80s, I think. Don't quote me on that. And check this out. Still has the Northern Telecom branding on it. Northern Telecom was essentially the Canadian branch of the American Bell system. I'm getting some details wrong here, but that's the gist. Let's look at the back. Or were they the Canadian version of Western Electric? I don't remember. Got more Northern Telecom branding, and look at that, folks. Made in Canada, baby. You can't quite tell, but that does say M7208. I don't see a year on this, but I'm guessing it's pre-2000. But it's the same phone. It's just a newer version after they did some rebranding. And this one's got quite the handset cord on it. Remember these from when you were a kid? Your mom was like 3 rooms away yapping with your brother or whatever. At least that's what mine was doing. And then this one is also a model 7208. They're the same phone. It's a newer version. Newer as in it's 26 years old here in 2026. It was built. Oh, this might be a Canadian date style. Probably April 9th. Well, this one says the year 2000, but this says 0203. So this is probably from 03, probably the design variant from the year 2000. That's my best guess. But this is kind of cool. The logo on the case says Nortel, but also Northern Telecom right underneath it. And this RD 1987. Hopefully you can see that. The other one also says RD 1987. So I think these have a pretty robust history. And this BCM stuff, I'm pretty sure that was meant as a successor to the prior Nortel phone systems, basically. And that's why they have backwards compatibility for these existing phones. It feels good. It's very strong plastic, no creaking. You can do one of these when you're real pissed off. That's the best part about a real phone. Let's talk about what I'm going to have to do to get these phones physically connected to this unit. Obviously going to take a little bit of finesse to get from this connector right in here into this thing, which is what those phones ultimately need to hook up to. This was, probably still is, a very common connector style in the telco industry. You would typically run a Cat 3 or Category 3 cable. It's got 25 pairs of wires in there for a total of 50 wires, as you can see, and spoilers. You can put phone jacks on the end of them. And then this here is what's typically called an Amphenol connector or AMP connector. It's named after the company, Amphenol. They were created in the 30s. They're still around. What's funny is they make more than just this connector. Obviously, they're not going to be around since the 30s making just this, and I can almost guarantee they didn't make this one. I'm pretty sure this is technically a Centronics 50 or CN50 connector, and Amphenol makes them. Let me know. But one reason it took me so long to follow up on this thing is I don't have the right connectors. So this is well, either way, it's the wrong gender. I can't plug these in, I only had these. So in a stroke of luck, a viewer named Zach reached out, and for the cost of shipping, I got this big AMP interconnect. Probably stands for Amphenol. I don't have a spot to use this yet, but I will eventually. And on the back, it had a couple of these big connectors, and took one off, and they're the correct gender. Ends of the cable were already cut, so I don't even need to feel bad. That's what we're going to hook up to this. We're halfway there. Now, I could, of course, just crimp an RJ11 on the other end of that cable and call it a day. But Zach also sent along some 66 blocks. These are interconnect blocks. The 66 comes from the Western Electric part number. I believe these came out in the early 60s. Probably about 3 billion of them have been made. Now, these are pretty perplexing when you first look at them. So before we talk about them, and I'm not going to even pretend to be an expert in these by any means, I'm just going to walk my way through it, explain it the best I can. So I've got the meter in continuity mode. It beeps when those are touching. And the way this works is, coming in from the left, these 2 terminals are connected. We can hear the beep. But these are not connected to the left side. And of course, if we go over to the right 2 terminals are connected. And then, of course, none of these are connected vertically. It's purely horizontal. So the left 2 connected, the right 2 connected. And you might be wondering, why is that useful? Well, you might typically have your lines coming in from the telco provider and then all your lines in your building, and you want to interconnect some of them. And I don't know what this particular one was used for. It's just straight through. So the 50 wires coming in here are punched down on this side, and the 50 wires on this side are punched down. And actually, none of them are interconnected in this situation. You can buy little clips that let you bridge the middle two connectors. So if I was to put a clip right here, this line and this line would be interconnected. We don't necessarily have to do that. There's no reason I couldn't route a bunch of wires way up in here down over to these lines, for example. Again, I'm not an expert. There's a special punch down tool to attach wires to these terminals. A viewer and patron named Glenn sent this in actually recently. It's kind of funny how everything sort of comes together on accident. So this is a punch down tool. So I'm going to press and it's going to perform a punch action. It's going to pierce and cut the wire and push it into the terminal of the 66 block, hopefully. It's got this button on each side that says push. I don't know why they use two different colors. And if you push that, eventually the tool falls out. So this is the punching head or something. I don't know what you would, I don't know the technical term. It's got two sides, one labeled 110 and one labeled 66. 110 is another style of punch down block. So we're going to want 66 pointing out the end of our tool, and one side of it is labeled cut. And on our tool here, one side has some scissors, one side does not. I have not read any instructions. I like to go based on like the user experience they've provided, for lack of a better word. So I'm guessing 66 points out. We're going to want the cut on the scissor side. It looks like it slips in there sideways and then twists. And it's in there and we can punch down, theoretically. Got some of this twisted pair phone wire. And I'm going to route it in here. Doing it live for you the first time. I imagine you want to get it started. Got it sitting in there just like that. My excess wire is pointing outwards. And so there's sort of a cutting face at the top there. So I'm imagining I want to do this. Yeah. My other wire fell out. You probably only do one at a time. Imagine doing this all day. It'd be better than sitting in front of a computer. Oh, that one didn't take. There we go. Yeah, so that wire got fully engaged into the clip. Both of them look clean, so that's how you would do that. So I think that's the plan. I'll cut back some of this. I'll figure out which wires to punch down on one side, and then unclear what I'm going to do on this side. Worst case scenario, I can run this bare twisted pair to the phone, and I can crimp a connector on the other end and plug it in. That was pretty cool. So how do these just pull out? Yes, they do. I'm repunching a couple wires to make a point, and there's definitely an art to this that I don't have. Practice makes perfect. Okay, the last thing I wanted to point out was, remember, these two are connected, but they don't bridge the gap over to here, where you'd be fanning out into the phones. But there's nothing stopping me from doing something like this. It's useful to have a tool like this little pointer to guide it into the connector, and then something that really helps is pushing down really hard. So I have no idea if this would be a legitimate interconnect setup, but you can see I've taken the wires on the right and I've just bypassed these pins entirely, and I've connected them up right here. So now we have a cross through. I could come in here with a Cat 3, pretend that this is on this side, and a phone line could be going out this way to an individual phone. So I think that'll work nice. One last thing to note, this particular punch-down tool has a low and a high setting, and I think that controls how aggressive the punch is. And I was reading you should use high for a 66 block, and my 3 minutes of experience tells me that is true. And I'll tell you, if you flip this down into low, it is very hard to wrench it back into high. You just got to push pretty hard. There's a big spring in there. So yeah, that's the wiring. Now let's talk about the software. So if you catch one of these BCM units on eBay or whatever, and they don't have a hard drive, or they're not sold as working, you're going to be in for a little bit of extra work. They required the BCM software, and they ran on these IDE hard drives, at least the era I'm dealing with here. I think it's a version of Windows NT, and later it became Linux, but the era we're dealing with, late 90s, early 2000s, it's going to be a Windows NT instance running some special Nortel software. But a viewer named Devin was gracious enough to reach out and say, hey, I've got a bunch of the Nortel hard drives in this old networking closet that we are definitely not going to need anymore. Do you want them? And of course I said yes. So this Maxter drive, this Maxter Fireball 3 20.4 gig drive from July 24th, 2004, is going to be our first port of call, mainly because it's labeled BCM 1000, and I believe I have one of those, or an early version, and BCM 3.5 is going to be compatible with that, as far as I know. And it's pretty cool to see the Nortel Networks FRU, so you could have ordered this from Nortel, and they would ship you the drive with the software on there. He gave me a few others that I haven't really looked at, so let me unwrap these and we'll go through them one by one, see what we can find out. So we got a couple of these Seagate, these are all IDE drives, 7200 RPM, 80 gig. Just trying to look for some BCM information, and I do see a sticker on this one. So this one is running BCM 3.6, theoretically has that on there, and it is from 2009, and it weighs like nothing. It's one of those thin ones. So this one, this Maxter drive, is thin as well, but it's 5 years older. Much more heft to it. It was just when they started making these things a little thinner this direction. And yeah, this is just, it feels like it's just made out of entirely plastic. Feels hollow. Also, they make some noises I don't like. The one that does specifically mention BCM 3.6 has this NT blah 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 sort of part number or FRU number or something like that. This other one doesn't have any indication that I can find that it has BCM on it, but it does have one of these stickers with the NT, so yeah, I'm guessing it's got some Nortel stuff on it. And then we've got this other Maxtor Fireball 3 20.4 gig. It was built January 26th, 2005, and I like this. It was last tested September of 2018. So at least as late as 2018, the shop this came from, they needed one of these. And then we've got this one. This is a Seagate Barracuda, absolute classic, 40 gig IDE drive, and it came in this caddy with a card. So I believe there was an optional RAID controller. My unit obviously does not have one of those. And my best guess is that RAID controller card would have plugged into this, because down here you can see we've got this like daughter board, for lack of a better word, and I think the RAID controller would have plugged into here. The hard drive that is in there, this Seagate Barracuda, is plugged into this cable right here. And then if I flip it around, there's another IDE cable slot. That one is free. You would have plugged in your other drive, something like that. I don't know. I don't have the RAID controller to leverage this card. I also find it kind of weird that there are some LEDs and a button. So maybe this is from an entirely different unit, because the unit I have, as you'll see, the drives would have been entirely inside the chassis. You would never have seen any of this. It's definitely the newest one we've got. It is the BCM RAID Upgrade Kit sticker on the drive from 2011. I think it's finally time to actually do something. I'm sure you'll agree. So this bad boy has just been floating around on the floor down here, and the lid was off. I don't think I have any, I don't know how to get this off. I don't think it had any screws on it, and I've lost the screws. I've got this shelf over here, so when I'm working on an active project, just put all my crap right here. But as you can see, there's no screws, because my friend here likes to go on said shelf and try to walk away with my screws, don't you? Yeah. And usually in a moment of panic, I like throw them in something like this, the top of a paint can. So I don't know. I don't know where the screws are. Hopefully they're normal size screws. They're probably with Chloe, please. Chloe. Ma'am. Ma'am. They're probably in here somewhere. These are my screw bins. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is all assuming that I can just pop a hard drive in this thing, it's going to work, which I'm kind of having my doubts. There's some weird stuff in here. Let me show you. Look what I'm dealing with here. Chloe. She's actually not even a bad cat. She's actually really good. Oh, except we're fighting. What do you think? Okay. Oh, okay, big dog. See what I mean? Looking for screws and stuff to mess with. Chloe, climb the Linksys tower. Chloe, you can do it. Up here, Chloe. Maybe not. She's in there finding screws I forgot about 5 years ago. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted. In here, we basically have a boring old PC with some not boring hardware attached to it. So right here, we've got the MSC, or Media Services card. It basically does all the voice processing and some other stuff, like it can do music on hold. And it's got these PC MCIA cards in here holding the software that it needs. So I believe as you upgrade versions of the BCM software running on here, it will automatically upgrade these cards. And I was reading, theoretically, they're backwards compatible, I guess, the versions of whatever they're putting on here. This thing is basically the brains of the operation. It's the PBX. It does all the voice stuff. And then, of course, we've got those modules you saw on the front. We've got the digital module on the bottom there. It's got a little fan, in fact. And then these are the analog modules. And they've got little ribbon cables coming off the back of them, which ultimately end up plugged into the MSC. This thing's a little dusty. Here's the front of the MSC. And so you've got some audio jacks for things like music on hold and paging systems. And then this Ethernet looking guy here is actually something called a DS256. Apparently you can buy some sort of expansion boxes for this thing and they would interconnect over that DS256 cable. So it's not a network connection. There's two ways to interact with this thing as far as I can tell. A serial port, got all sorts of normal PC stuff down in here, and then over some sort of web GUI, which would have been accessible over a network card that I'm clearly missing. Now down in here you can see we do have a network port here, but none of the documentation talks about that. It always talks about hooking up, well, I shouldn't say always, I haven't read the full 311 page document, but I've read a lot of it. They're always talking about this one. And so this one might not even be enabled by default, or I should say usable from the software. Hopefully we can do everything we want to do today over the serial port, but if not, and it would be nice to get a network card in here. The tricky part is, I was telling you, that it's running Windows NT. But you're not going to get a desktop. You don't really interact with the Windows NT install. I believe it's totally locked down and you're just interacting with the Nortel software that's running on it. I suspect I can't just slap any old network card in here, but we'll see. Maybe a serial port will be enough. Down in here is where the hard drive goes, and there are 4 standoffs right here. They are not compatible and don't match this drive bay. It kind of clips in, so that's a problem. I don't have the bracket. Let me see what I can cook up here. I have fabricated a stand. That's going to work very nicely. Got her locked in. Definitely don't want this thing moving around and shorting its electronics against the posts down in there while I'm playing with it. IDE cable's a little dusty. Gonna give it the Collab Retro tune-up. Got it installed exactly to Nortel specifications. In the previous video, I kind of was able to get Windows NT to attempt to boot, and then I couldn't interact with the machine. It would just kind of hang on the Windows NT classic blue screen you never want to look at. Some commenters said that that was probably normal, and I just needed to get on the serial port. Never had any luck with that. One theory is I had this in the mix. I was trying to, put the BCM software on this SD card. It is a nice, valid SD card, by the way, in this little SD to IDE converter. So I've taken that variable out of the equation, and maybe the image was busted. I could never get Ghost to actually write it successfully, even though it kind of worked. So we've removed some variables, but I still have a sneaking suspicion I'm gonna just hit the same problem with a real hard drive. But let's get all this hooked up and flip her on. Look at this beautiful thing, a VGA cable, a really thick one, with the PS2 cables built into it. Unfortunately, both ends are male. So what I'm going to do is get some adapters, not for this video. The point of this video is I'm going to use this nice VGA cable to hook up this monitor right here. I know I keep talking about it, but I've got a KVM on the other side of that wall, and I've got these PS2 extender cables coming out for the keyboard and mouse. This is the KVM keyboard and mouse. And then this like 300-foot VGA cable that Brooks sent in is hooked up to the KVM anyway. We're going to see what the VGA quality of this bad boy is today, and then I'm going to send this over to the KVM, get some adapters, and then I'll have everything I need from the KVM coming in on one cable, which is going to be pretty sweet. I'm actually not going to do any of that because the gender on the VGA is wrong for what I need to. We'll try out this one instead today. It also looks nice. It's ridiculous that they don't make good VGA cables anymore. And I'm lucky that I'm on YouTube and I complain about it, and then a couple guys send me nice cables. Michael sent this one in. Oh, that's a good trick to have on your monitor. It's an exciting day for me when I get to try out a new VGA cable. We're just home labbing, guys. Yoink. Got everything hooked up, of course, the monitor and then the serial port. Not even going to use a mouse and keyboard because theoretically that's not how you would have done this. Using this in production, you would do serial port or the network. The documentation says it's a pretty typical setup, except it wants hardware flow control. Wouldn't it be really funny if the other video, it was working the whole time and I was using software flow control, because that's what I have my defaults on in PuTTY. Haven't watched that video since I edited it, but I'm almost certain I didn't try hardware flow control, and I don't recall doing that off camera. We'll see what happens. Still turns on, that's good. Screen just lit up. It's going to go into the Business Communication Manager, that's good. It complained about not having a keyboard, which is, of course is true, and it saw the master drive. Well, obviously it saw the master drive, because here we are. This is what happened last time. Yep, this is all looking real familiar. Let me adjust this monitor real quick. This is exactly the same thing that happened last time. It would just kind of get stuck right here. I can hear the drive doing something. I'll leave it for a while and I'll play with my serial port settings. Not a second after I stopped filming that, this showed up on the serial port. And then I think it just rebooted itself. Yeah, I can't type. It says it's scanning option ROMs. Oh, it's in a boot loop. Okay, we're getting further though. Yeah, this is not ideal, but it is further than I got last time. So it is on that blue screen loading up. I think what we're going to see is it's going to give us another username prompt. I wasn't ready for this. I didn't look up the default user and password. Let's at least see if we can type. Really don't like that it restarted itself. Yeah, so I can type now, kind of. What? Let's just do blanks. So I'm interacting with the thing, but it might reset itself. I'm going to go find the username and password. Found it. It's supposed to be supervisor. I don't have a domain. The password is visor. Failed to log on. Okay, it hasn't restarted itself though. That's good. Oops. Huh. Okay, I'm gonna do some more research. Supervisor and visor were the web admin interface user and password, which are different for some reason. It says I should use EE-admin as the user and EEdge as the password. It has not restarted itself yet. That's exciting. So we've got EE-admin. It says don't choose a domain. EEdge. No. Okay, that's too bad. This is what we would really like to be able to log in and see. We're in. The documentation was wrong. The default password was something else entirely. Spiceworks strikes again. Someone's trying to log into their BCM 400, which came out after this one. And this guy's saying use EE-admin, please check me. But that was a typo, because he also said to try supervisor, please change me. And it was EE-admin, PLS, CHG-ME, exclamation. And I don't even know what to do. Oh, baby. System configuration. That was apparently the wrong choice. Oh, there it goes. It's just real slow. I'm used to that Cisco stuff. What the? All right, gonna stop filming. I'll be back. I need to actually read more of the documentation now. The documentation says if I want to configure through the serial port, enter option 3, the configuration wizard. So that's what we're gonna do, option 3. It just goes immediately. It doesn't wait for you to press enter. You've made your choice. You can tell it's running a full-blown version of Windows because everything takes forever. It complained that the BCM telephony system was not ready, which seems very bad. So I'm going to try diagnostics. Dude, I don't know. We're going to exit. They'll let you press enter on this one. Let's look at the system status monitor. It's probably very clear that I'm not reading the documentation again. So the modem card I have in there, it says no driver. That's cool. It thinks the MSC card is running. That's good. This was not useful at all. No enter on that one. Just go, who built this? Again, they were too busy committing financial fraud. I'm just kidding. It's non-trivial to build stuff like this. I'm just being an asshole. Let's try platform initialization menu. I do not know what I'm doing. Yes, I would like to initialize the menu. It's probably not good that our config status is invalid. These seem like pretty scary options, so I'm going to once again consult the documentation. This sounds pretty promising, actually. So it's saying it's normally initialized at the factory, but if you have replaced the hard drive, which I clearly have, I think it's something to do with those PC MCIA cards, and I've swapped in a new drive, and we're going to want to initialize the universal profile. Let's do that. It says invalid hardware validation. My configuration is not supported. So as I was worried about this, it doesn't like that I don't have a network interface card. It rewrote the screen. It also doesn't like that I don't have a WAN card. It's going to be a little more involved than I thought. Did a Control-C, and it asked me to terminate batch job. I, of course, said yes. And now I find myself at the C prompt using Windows over a serial port. Okay. I don't know how useful this is to me. I am unfortunately going to have to reboot the machine. I haven't shut down a Windows machine from the command line maybe 15 years, but there is a shutdown command. I think you do /s because they couldn't be bothered with -args. Didn't like that. Just hit it with shutdown. I'm trying not to hurt this drive. That didn't work. What is this? This is a like very dumbed down version of the usual shutdown command as far as I can remember. We'll try shut down local. Yes, I want to. I'm just going to unplug it. I don't care. So my working theory here is that it doesn't like not having an Ethernet card, a network interface card. You saw there it said it had 0. It's complaining about invalid hardware configuration. So I was looking through all my stuff. And of course I've got tons of these Sun Microsystems 10, 100, 1 gig cards. And NT's not going to like that. I did find this 10100 dual port Ethernet card. It's got a pretty typical Intel chip on it. Came out of a compact machine, but we're going to give it a shot. So the problem is this thing is running, you know, Windows NT embedded whatever, and it only has whatever drivers were shipped on the disk. And I have to find an Ethernet card whose drivers happen to be on that disk. And this is the most generic one I can find. Usually compact is a little bit of a headache, so I'm not really holding my breath, but we're going to slap this in there. Based on what I was seeing from those serial port menus, I don't think it's really going to care about what PCI slot necessarily the card is in, just whether or not Windows NT has the drivers for it. So let's give it a shot. Try to show you what this does. Complains about keyboard error, finds the Maxter, can hear the drive clicking, scanning for option ROMs, that's normal, motherboard stuff. Now we're in now, so there's 2 partitions, one with BCM and one with this thing called Maintenance OS. Hopefully we don't have to deal with that. It booted, and it lists the PCI cards from left to right, and it still thinks the one I put that network card in is empty, which I believe means Windows NT doesn't have a driver for that. Let's do the platform initialization. Yeah, definitely doesn't know anything is in PCI slot 1, not available. I really feel like it should be able to do this without a network card. Got my Windows 95 machine out, and I pulled out a network card that I believe is pretty common. This is a Netgear FA311 10100 megabit card, and it's got this guy on the back when Netgear was cool. Not particularly surprised that a machine does not immediately recognize anything that is compact branded from this era. They were kind of in their own world in a way, despite kind of, establishing the dominance of the PC standard. Kind of ironic. No luck. Didn't see that one either. Gonna have to get on eBay. It's up and running right now with the original hard drive, which is busy. These IDE drives don't get really hot though. That other Maxter drive, dead. Doesn't work. It's good to slap drives on the running drive. One of the Seagate drives, also dead. Doesn't work. System can't find it. This Seagate drive, the one that had the BCM 3.6 information that I was making jokes about, it does work. Works just fine. Same problem. Doesn't like the hardware configuration, can't initialize, blah, blah, blah. So RIP to these guys. So I've been messing around with that original Maxter drive, release 3.5, and I went into diagnostics. There was an option to view the system event log, number 3. And we have some logs from way back in the day, 2003. And if you work your way through here, there's no way to quit this, by the way. Q doesn't quit. You start getting into some today's date, May 20th, 2026. I don't know how it knows today's date. Didn't set that. And it's complaining about the Netgear FA310TX fast Ethernet adapter driver service failed. So I think that's the card I need to buy. Anyway, I bought one of these bad boys for 24 bucks. The FA310TX, the exact card it's complaining about, or it's complaining it can't see. We got our complete inbox. It's got the weird Netgear guy on it. So I'll see you in like 4 or 5 days when this shows up. Well, it's a couple days later and the seller hasn't even shipped that card, unfortunately. I was hoping to get it quick, but while we wait, let's try the SD card route again, just for fun. So I did this before and was even able to get to the Windows NT blue screen, and I'm 99% sure my serial port settings on PuTTY on the other machine were wrong. I'll show you what I do. I messed around with this SD card in that Patreon video I was talking about, so let's try writing a copy of BCM 3.7, a little newer than what we've got on the hard drives, to this guy. The copy I had found on the archive are these GHO files, so you use Ghost to write them. That was pretty common back in the day. So I've loaded it up with this thing called Ghost Explorer, and you can see all the partitions. We've got that main OS thing, and then Windows NT. And then to actually write it, what you do is you go into the program files of the Ghost install, and you run Ghost 32. So at least on this laptop, that's what you do. And then we're greeted with this beauty. So, local disk from image. And then I believe at the root of my C drive, yes, there it is, a ghost image file of BCM 3.7, and I'm going to put it on the SD card, 32 gig card I think. Okay, it knows about all the partitions, and this failed in the last video, but I was still able to boot off of it, which was weird. So let's see, permanently overwrite, yes. This cute little ghost is going to go off and do his thing. I think we'll see an error message. I'll bring you back when that happens. Here's that error. It gets about 75% of the way or so, and it says decompression error abort. I'm going to say don't abort. Corruption in the image file. Okay. So Ghost eventually shut down, and I restarted this little thing. And as you can see, all the ridiculous partitions Nortel had on there mount just fine. So let's pop it in the BCM 1000. Again, this isn't going to solve our problem. We need to wait for that network card, I'm pretty sure. But I'm just curious if this is going to work. And if I was just an idiot before. It's clearly like a somewhat corrupt install though, so we'll use the hard drives when the Ethernet cards show up. Got that thing just sitting in there. We'll see what we get. It sees the BCM software on there. I think we're gonna at least get to the Windows NT blue screen, and then we'll check out what I was doing with the serial port settings there. So over here in PuTTY, if we go to serial, flow control, I usually had that on software, and this thing wants it on RTS, CTS, hardware flow control, which isn't as common, and probably why I didn't try it. The question is, no, we still don't have access. Okay. That almost sort of makes me feel better. Like I wasn't going crazy in that last video. All right. I think now, unfortunately, we just need to wait for an Ethernet card. While we wait, we can figure out the phone wiring situation, I think. Now, this is the end that needs to go on the BCM 1000, and this is the vast majority of the cables I have look like this. And I was sort of just playing around, and I did one of these. Big mistake. They get real stuck together. This particular connector has some metal retaining clips, and you have to get like a little tool like this, get it in there, and luckily, just doing one side is enough to break them apart. Anyway, I was having a panic attack for about 35 seconds. So I've got two of these 66 blocks, and I could just wire it up pretty similar to this. So take the other end and get some of this going off to each phone. But in a simpler but also somehow more convoluted way, I think I'm going to use this breakout panel I've got. So this side coming out, just like that. And then I can plug a normal phone cable into whatever the correct jack ends up being. So we'll plug the phones into that, and we'll leverage this 66 block to convert from that gender of this particular cable over to this one, which can go in the BCM. And I think, as much as I regret destroying whoever did this, they did beautiful work, I'm going to pull all this out. I don't actually know, but to my untrained eye, a professional did this. This was not their first rodeo. All the cables are splayed out just the length they need. Kind of a shame. It was actually kind of hard to get it started because all the cables are just like the perfect length. I guess that's the benefit of the punch down. You can bring a bunch of excess in and then punch it down and it goes away. The nice thing though is once I'm done with this, I'll actually be able to use this as an ad hoc breakout cable on this thing whenever I need to do something like that. So I'll finish this up. If you told me years ago when I started this YouTube channel that I would be unwiring a 66 block in a video someday, I'd be both excited and appalled. You'll notice how I kind of oscillate between the networking and the enterprise machines and all that, and some telephony stuff. They're all kind of interrelated the deeper into the 90s and 2000s you get. Once you start doing the telephony stuff, it gets into you like a brain worm. You can't stop thinking about it. Pulled back quite a large amount of the sheath here for future expansion, and I'm just going to hook up 2 lines today because I only have 2 Nortel phones. And then inside these Cat3 cables are 25 twisted pairs, and they each have a unique color, of course, so you can keep track of which one's which. And you can look up which pins on this correspond to which colors. But I think I'm just going to match whatever this guy did. So looks like we've got some blue and orange in these first 2. I'm just going to match that on the other side. So I think this is what we want. This blue pair on the top 2 and the orange ones on the second set. Chloe's been ignoring me all night. Then she heard me punching. Let's see what she thinks about this punch happening right next to her. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about anything. Easy cat. I think I got that right. So white and blue on the top, and then blue and white. More blue than white. I don't know what the right terminology is. And then the orange equivalent. And then we need to bridge them together. So I got some of these 66 block wiring clips. And I believe to connect both sides up, we just put these clips on the middle like that. And we should be able to use the multimeter to see what's connected to what. This is going to be hard to capture on film, but the blue pair are pins 26 and 1 on the far right of this connector. And the orange pair is the next one, 27 and 2. And the breakout box labels them, so this should be our blue pair, pins 26 and 1. This should be our orange pair, pins 27 and 2. So this should be one of these. It is. And this should be the other. It is. Now we'll move over to 27 and 2. Got it, and got it. So bringing it all together. This can plug into the BCM 1000. It routes through the 66 block, 2 lines. I can plug each of my 2 phones into these ports right here. We'll see. I'm not entirely sure that the Ethernet card is going to solve our problem, the network interface card. If it does, we'll be ready. The race is on. This is the one I bought 2 days ago. Still awaiting shipment. This is another one. Don't worry about that. I bought 3 more. And this guy is in Utah, which is only 1 state away from me. And so it thinks I might get it by May 28th, which would not be ideal. So I'd really like to produce this video before I go to VCF Southwest, which is in a week. It's Friday, May 22nd right now. This is what I do with all the Patreon money, by the way. I just buy stupid shit. Well, if you're familiar with reality and the passage of time, I obviously did not finish this video by VCF Southwest. In fact, I got back from there this morning. If you saw me and said hi, it was great talking to you. But my card came. Remember that big, nice, complete in box one I was excited about? Well, a couple days ago, the seller messaged me, and I quote, he said his wife placed a large, heavy tote on it, and it was broken into 3 pieces. So he refunded the order. This one showed up. The other ones are around here somewhere. Let's try our luck with this guy. Oh yeah, looks pretty crispy. I'm sure it was used, but there we go. Netgear, when they belong to Bay Networks. FA310TX. This should do the trick. We'll get this guy situated in here. And then I'll get the hard drive hooked back up. Beautiful. And we'll see if it works. The CPU fan's getting a little crusty and she's interested. This is good. I'm seeing some more action here. Very good. Sorry, let me zoom you in. These first few lights here, 1, 2, 3, correspond to PCI cards. And it seems to think they're good when it's green like that. The serial port isn't showing. Hey, no. Okay. Okay, Chloe. We're gonna have to cover this up for her. Too fun in there, huh? What I'm saying is I don't like what I'm seeing on the serial port. Let's go have a look. It still thinks it does not see an Ethernet card. So I was sort of suspicious that this isn't even going to solve my problem anyway. We'll see. Let's try the platform configuration menu again. Initialize, I guess. Initialize the universal profile. I think that's what I read I was supposed to do. I don't like that it doesn't know the version of the MSC card. That could also be, you know, bad. However, we're getting closer. It does see the LAN PCI card now. This has got to be a problem, the MSC version being unknown. But we still have invalid hardware validation. I'm going to go play around with these menus. Maybe I missed something. There's an option to retrieve the Media Services Card System ID, the MSC card, which is a critical component in there to do any telephony stuff. And you also saw earlier it had an unknown version. There's some sort of relation between the software on the hard drive and the firmware, or whatever you want to call it, that it puts on those PC MCIA cards that are inside. I have pulled those cards out in the first video. I recall I was very careful about putting them back in the slot I pulled them from, but that could be a problem, or I have a version of the BCM software that isn't compatible with those cards. I'm not entirely sure. And when you get stuck here, I can't remember if I've shown this terminate batch job thing, and it hops you back to the C prompt, you can just type exit and then you can log in again. That's a time saver instead of restarting the machine. I'm looking at the services this thing is running, and it is running an Apache server. I suppose I could attempt to assign it an IP now that I have a network card in there, and maybe we can get a little more action from the web UI. I guess I will attempt to assign it an IP. I will save you the pain that will likely entail. Definitely got some problems. So obviously it can't talk to the MSC card properly. If I go into the configuration wizard, it takes quite some time. It's actually really nice to have the hard drive disk activity indicator over there to show me that it's actually doing something. Eventually it will say that the BCM telephony services are not ready and I cannot initialize from here for whatever reason. And then if we go into system configuration, this takes quite a while as well. You get this beautiful thing, and I'm going to go to Q, which means quick start page 1, and something has happened. I did not do this. I did not set that IP. What I was going to show you is that when I try to set an IP, it doesn't work. I did change the name of the machine and rebooted it, and apparently that has given it a default IP. We might be able to work with that. You can see it recognizes it has 2 LAN physical interfaces. So there's the one built into the main board and the one we just put in, presumably. So let me see if I can change this now. I'm changing the second one to my network. Yeah, and it just complains internal error. unable to proceed. Okay, this is progress though. I think we can get a laptop hooked up to this network and see what we get. I do see some link activity lights now that it's plugged into the laptop on that port on the motherboard here. That's good. I forgot that I had put one of my other cards that I got from eBay in here a few days ago. I wonder if that's our problem. That's probably why it sees 2. That's a valid configuration though, meaning that some of these did ship with multiple LAN cards, but I can't ping on here, so I wonder if I'm actually supposed to be plugged into... Oh gosh. That's good. Just wrench your PCI card around. Look at those cool lights. Those are the fanciest status indicators I've ever seen on a network card. Look at that though. I can ping that default IP. I was looking in the docs. That is a default IP this thing will use. So it must have configured that itself. Well, yeah, that is the good stuff. Look at that picture of the BCM up there. I don't think I'm going to download the desktop application yet. Let's try to configure it from the web. Yep, allow pop-ups, yes. Try that again. Doesn't really work. I'm going to mess around. You'll find this funny. I've never had to use Java on this computer before. It doesn't have Java, so I can't do the web config yet. So I'm downloading this desktop app that it's also hosting. Let's see how that works. It's called the Desktop Assistant. Yeah, dude, give it to me. I would like a shortcut on my desktop. I don't want to set up any of those phones. This is the Terminal Assistant. I see. This lets me set up phones. This is fancy. Oh, baby. Okay, that's not what I want, though. It hosts all these applications. What about the Desktop Assistant Pro? You can just do even more phones. Why can't, there's no administration program? Looks like I got to get Java on this bad boy. So I was trying to go to this setup and management wizard, and then it complains right away. I did get IE cooking on it though. Let's see what Internet Explorer thinks. IE got further. I wonder if I have Java enabled here, and I have it disabled by default in Firefox. Please change me. Uh-oh, that same error that I get from the serial configuration wizard. BCM telephony system is not ready. This beautiful 2002 website is not going to help us. Step 1, let's pull the mystery card out that I forgot I put in there. That was that Netgear FA311 that I was experimenting with earlier, which is not the card this thing wants. So with that pulled out, maybe we'll have some different behavior. Pulled that card out. We do have an MSC version now. I swear I saw that number, that version ID somewhere else. Did it show that earlier? I'm getting real confused. Let's go to the configuration wizard. No luck. Telephony service still not ready. I really like that I can see an MSC version. That is exciting. We need to do something about initializing the system and making this config status not invalid. Okay. It's suspicious that occasionally it knows something about its version number. So I got to cut a zip tie to get this out of here. We're going to clean the connectors. I think that's like a supercapacitor right there. It's kind of feeling like capacitors or something like that. Or there's a battery on there. I guess that would be its battery. I'm going to pull this thing out, which is not going to be easy. There's no easy way that I can see to get a screwdriver in there down to the MSC PCI card. Looks like I just kind of wrenched on this. Oh, these are nice ones. Little metal nubs instead of plastic tabs that break. Good job, Nortel. Yeah, now I can get a screwdriver in there. We are going to start by just cleaning the slot with some contact cleaner and the board card connector, of course, the edge connector. It's possible there's like a little bit of corrosion. I don't think the card has moved anywhere, but obviously this was a working machine. Get some of this gunk off here. Yeah, pretty dusty. The machine itself really isn't that dirty inside. The case is very clean, but obviously it was on for a long time back when it was in service. Then it is zip tied down in here. Let's pull it out. I mean, it looks pretty clean, but you never know. There's this big capacitor right here, which I'm guessing it's using to back its storage settings. Let's look at the voltage on that just out of curiosity. So this is with no power on the machine at all. And it's got 5 volts. That is a good sign. I just cleaned and reseated these 4 PC MCIA cards as well, being very careful to put them back in the slots they were originally in. While I'm here, I'm going to throw a screw in for this network card as well, just so I don't cause any problems. Now, I was suspicious that it knows the modem is there, but it didn't have a driver for it. After this reseat, we'll try everything again. If that doesn't work, I'll pull the modem card. Maybe it doesn't like it when it sees hardware with no drivers. The documentation implies you can run any sort of mishmash of configuration, but maybe that's our issue. We'll power it back on. In the Platform Init menu, there is a way to upload firmware to the MSC. We might need to mess around with that. I'm just going to try to initialize again without that other rogue card in there. Invalid hardware config. There's no way that you have to have a WAN card for this thing. There's just no way. Where am I going to find one of those? It's got to be using a config that expects the WAN card, and I need to be able to like remove it or something like that. We're going for broke with the MSC upload menu. Oh boy. What does any of this mean? I had tried to follow this a few days ago. There are instructions about replacing the hard disk. You need to do some sort of initialization. And it does seem to be related, that menu I was just looking at. This guy right here. And even in their example, it does not know the MSC version all the time. That's encouraging. This is a slightly older BCM version they're using, but I'm going to read through this. Here's what all those menu items mean. They are talking about different T1 settings and, of course, E1 settings based on your location. Looks like T1 CT2 Plus and T1 Etiquette are relevant for me here in America. I am going to upload the Etiquette MSC T1 stuff. Nothing happened. I will also do the other one that was relevant for North America. I didn't make it any worse. Still don't know what version it is. I don't know what I'm doing. So here's that media services card system ID. And it just sits at this. Does nothing. And you eventually have to Control-C out of it. It's possible. This machine's from 1999. And I'm trying to run a version of the BCM software that's a few years newer. And this isn't technically a BCM 1000. It's possible I need to just run a way older version of the BCM software inside of it. Could be it. Seem to recall reading somewhere you couldn't go from any old version to a new one. There was some where you had to come up to a particular version and then you could get to 3 and 4 and beyond. Maybe that's the situation I'm in now, and it's just not doing a good job of letting me know. I'm looking through the initialization logs, and when I was first messing with this computer several days ago, it does say no NIC detected, confirmed that is an invalid configuration, so I wasn't wasting my time finding a network card. I'm going to roll through these till today and see if it tells me anything more about my current configuration. Not inspiring. It now knows about the LAN card and then says it's validating the hardware configuration and then just says the hardware's invalid. So, okay. Now I'm looking at the application logs. I think there's a 132 megs of RAM in there. And we are running a version of NT that's probably from like 2003 embedded. And I am seeing RAM complaints and memory exhausted complaints every once in a while when it's trying to do stuff. That could be another thing to pursue. Modem in or out, didn't matter. No surprise there. Just going to steal some RAM. Thinking maybe we'll double up the RAM in this thing from the Cisco PIX Firewall Windows 98 machine. If you've been watching a long time, I should just be messing with this. Better for your sanity. It's not going to help us. It is another 128 meg stick, but it's error code correcting. You can tell because it's got more chips on it. So that's not going to help us. I think I need to hunt down a copy of BCM 2.5, which is proving to be difficult. It would help if I put the RAM stick in the correct way. I heard a good quote recently. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. It has been over 2 months since the last clip you just saw of me trying to get this BCM 1000 working. 2 months ago, I bought this one on eBay, and it finally showed up yesterday. The guy was really communicative. There was like some health issues, some weather problems, something going on with his warehouse where this was. Anyway, I was patient, because these don't exactly grow on trees. And this one was pulled from a working environment 6 months ago, in the listing it said, which, well, 8 months ago now, from a local county. So the government was running this thing until very recently. And it's complete and should theoretically work. Over the last couple months, I have tried many different times to get this thing to work. And it'll occasionally recognize the MSC card, though the telephony services will never start. A lot of the time it doesn't understand, can't talk to this MSC card properly, doesn't even know the version of the code it's running. So I've either got a failing MSC card, there might be a battery or a supercapacitor laying in there somewhere, maybe I showed that earlier in the video, or I've just got a big like software mismatch problem between the stuff running on this card, because it's got those PC MCIA cards and they are running software, and all the different types of BCM software I've been trying with the real hard drives I have and the SD card and all that. So the plan is, let's try this one. It's looking like it's fully equipped the way it came from the factory. It is a year newer. This was built in 2000. The one we've been looking at was built in 1999. It came with 2 network cards by default, which was one of the configurations you could buy this in. It's got the modem, and then of course it's got the MSC card for all our telephony stuff we're attempting to do. It's got a caller ID trunk interface for the analog lines coming in from a telco provider, for example, just like my other one, but it's also got a different module, the CTM8. And I believe this is for plugging in analog phones and analog devices into the whole like PBX network. So like modems, analog phones, that type of thing. So that might come in handy. That's kind of cool to have. And then of course down here we've got our 32 DSI, the digital modules. So those black Nortel phones that I'm trying to plug in, those guys will go in here. I did poke my head inside. It's got one of those Maxter hard drives in here. I think it was pulled working. I don't know if we're going to have a, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't know if it works. If it does work, we might have a password situation we're going to have to deal with. I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm going to get this out of the way and we'll open this up. It is pretty dirty. It's definitely doing some work. A little grimy. This is probably just from wherever it was stored since it got pulled out of service, but the fans are all gunked up too. It was running in a pretty dirty environment, I think. And it came with these very beefy brackets. I've loosened the screws so I can get the back lid off. They kind of compress the lid and make it hard to get off. And the seller had 2 of them, and one of them, these brackets were the other way around. So I guess you could do it that way. I think it's for mounting to a wall, basically. It still has the same Enterprise Edge 1000/expansion cabinet branding. I don't remember if the other one had that, and I already put it on a shelf, so maybe we can look back in the video later. There were expansion cabinets you could buy, and they probably just used the same case for them. And this one's about a year newer than my previous unit, built in the year 2000, 26 years old. It took him forever to get it to me, like I was saying, the eBay seller, but he packaged it maybe the best I've ever seen anything packaged. And these are very, very heavy. So it showed up in one piece. These back case screws were missing, a little suspicious. This just slides out like the other one, of course. And it's looking complete. I mean, we've got all 4 PC MCIA cards, and we've got 256 megs of RAM. I was just looking, but it's real dirty. Like, pretty bad. We cannot turn it on this way. I'm sure it would function, but it'd be pretty nasty. So I'm going to have to, I think we're going to have to pull all these modules out. I don't know how hard that's going to be. Looks like maybe not too hard. And yeah, we're going to have to get this dust out of here because this is pretty bad. But perhaps most importantly, it has its hard drive, which hopefully means it has the software on there, assuming that drive still functions. Decided to pull the original one back off the shelf because it was bugging me. I wanted to see if these labels were actually different, and they are. And they changed the layout. The older one has a different type of metal than the case here on the back, and this one has the same sort of finish as the rest of the case, and this is the same, but they have repositioned the power supply for the newer one. It's like less than a year newer. That's kind of interesting. And like I was showing you, this one says Enterprise Edge 1000/expansion cabinet, but the slightly older one just says Enterprise Edge 1000. So they had maybe planned for the expansion cabinet and weren't producing them yet until the year 2000? Not sure. Well, I decided the best course of action was going to be to blast this thing with the air compressor. And I think you'll agree. Looks quite a bit better. There's some fans down in here that don't look great, but I think it's good enough to turn on. However, this big fan on the back is very crusty. And doesn't want to spin very well. So we're going to pull that off and see if we can revive that. And for context, after I blew this off with the air compressor, before I put it back on the bench, I wiped the bench off. And this is just the stuff that's been falling off of this thing as I've been showing it to you. So we'll get these out. And I don't know if I said it yet, but if this thing doesn't work, that's too bad. I'm going to just ship the video because I've been messing with this thing and thinking about this thing for months. And if it doesn't work, I'll upload a fail video and someone will tell me what I'm doing wrong. This big thing is a NIDEC Beta 5 apparently, and it sounds terrible. It's kind of loose too. So let's see, I think we can get in there and lube those bearings up. Probably goes without saying, this thing smells musty. So most of the dust is pretty loose, but definitely some water was involved, maybe with the way it was stored. Well, I shouldn't say water, humidity. I don't think the thing has gotten wet. The seller was in Florida, so that would add up. And I believe he said it was a local county that was running it, which would have also been in Florida. And there's a lot of humidity in Florida, as you can imagine. Yeah, here's all the crap just from the paintbrush. And this was after I hit it with the air compressor. It's pretty bad. You probably know the drill, but basically we want to cut this sticker away so that we can get some oil in the fan bearing. Yeah, it's crusty. Take a little of this 3-in-1 oil. And if this thing is like a total disaster, I guess I could steal the fan out of the other one. I'm going to keep working it in like this. Better. This thing sucked in a ton of oil. The whole assembly is pretty loose. This thing's been running for basically 26 years, I think. So it's sounding better. I might do a little more. I've never seen a fan suck this much oil in. At this point, I think maybe I'm hurting it. I don't know. It's just so loose. The whole assembly is quite loose. We might be able to... No, I don't think we're going to be able to do anything about that. It's just going to be loud, but at least it's not crusty anymore. So then you take a little piece of Kapton tape, just enough to cover the hole you cut, and I need new scissors, and that should hopefully be that. It's not great. It's better than it was. It's back in there for better or worse, and I've never seen this before. When you screw it into the case, it doesn't want to spin very well, because you saw it spinning super freely when it was out. It's like it's getting... Anyway, enough with this. That's how it was when I got it, so let's plug it in. I think we're ready. We've got everything plugged in. Mouse, keyboard, which we won't really need. VGA monitor going here. The serial port. Check out this new power setup. Got this under table rack mount thing with a half-U keystone panel for network connectors. I think that's probably actually going to go up here in the future, so I can put like wall warts or whatever. But each one is individually switched. Don't worry, the classic switch is not going away anytime soon. I've never used this thing before. Let's try it out. I'm nervous. First of all, this thing is going to smell horrendous. And second of all, if it doesn't work, that's the end of the video. So let's see. Ooh, all the fans sound terrible. This fan doesn't even move. It's posting though. It's got a Pentium 3. It's counting its RAM. Oh, let me make sure the power supply fan works. It does. The CPU fan is quiet. Sounds good. This guy has a fan. It's spinning, but he has no lights. The fan sounds terrible. This one also has a fan. It's not spinning. This is not looking good. Discrete error. What the heck? I'm going to Control-Delete. Pulled from working environment my ass. I can't tell if the drive is spinning. I don't think it is. This is a problem, obviously. We might just pull the other fan, and I'm going to have to pull these modules. Wait, it found a disk this time. Okay, so briefly, it knows that the Maxter is there. I'll show you again. But then we get this screen again. Right there, fixed disk maxter. Alright, so this is really bad. A lot of fan work to do. I know I said the video's over, but I'll keep trying for a little bit. It's getting late, so I gotta go to bed, but we'll be back at it tomorrow. I would say this thing is in worse shape than the one I have. CPU works, RAM works. Got a nice motherboard in there, I guess. Hopefully, the MSC card works. So the plan of action is I'm going to pull these modules tomorrow, and we'll fix the fans. We'll swap this fan in, and then I do have a bunch of different hard drives to try. The theory being maybe the MSC card is bad in the other one, and we can try basically the same thing we've been trying. So yeah, I guess I'll see you tomorrow. I have a few paths I could go down. So like I was saying, we can get these fans all fixed up and try a different hard drive in here. I also realized I didn't get into the BIOS. The clock battery on this thing's probably dead. Maybe this hard drive isn't even in the boot order. But very quickly, I'm actually going to get another proper network card in this one, in this empty slot where it would have shipped with. I didn't try that. I've got, like, if you count these, I've got like 6 of these things, so cornered the market on Netgear. What are these? FA310 TX cards. Plenty of these. So let's pop that in, briefly boot this one on, see if it has any config difference. I don't think it's going to solve our MSC problem. Then we'll point our attention towards this one and see what to do about all this. I think it's working, or at least it's getting a lot further than I have ever gotten. It just started the MSC up. All I needed to do was put another network card, of which I have many of the correct one now, in that slot. Why did I not think of that before? Well, I didn't think of it because it's ridiculous that that would be a requirement. This is the system initialization menu. I went through, you've seen me try this 50 times, and I'm initializing a universal profile. It correctly sent some software or some package of something to the MSC. Now the speaker's making noise. Look at this. I'm in shock. Now it's attempting to start the voice MSC service again. I'll be back when it fails or succeeds. We are experiencing a spurious reset. Doesn't sound good. It's up to something. It's having trouble finding something. This thing, voice CTI tool, something BCM. I'm just gonna let it loop a few times. Maybe this is normal. We're further, but it's definitely not working. So even when I'm on this, I restarted it. Even when I'm on this main screen, it kind of plays a bunch of chimes as it's looping through that process, trying to get everything started. And that's what it's doing now. But we have a valid config. It can see the MSC version consistently, and the init status is in progress. But I have a sinking suspicion I won't be able to get this thing working. More software headaches. I'm going to mess around. It's still having trouble with the MSC. So these are the init logs, and it knows it's attempting to initialize the system and that it's in progress. And it can sometimes find the MSC version, but sometimes it can't. And I think it's just looping around. Let's try something simple and give this thing more RAM. It only has 128 megs. I stole a 128 meg stick from the unit I just bought, and we'll pop that in and see if that makes any difference at all. Well, I got to this screen a lot faster with that extra RAM, I can tell you that. But now I can't access it over the serial port for some reason. It's still trying to initialize because it plays all those little chimes over and over again. I cannot stress enough how bad this thing is. It's a piece of crap. I used both RAM sticks to get this one up to 256 megs, and now the serial port works. So whatever. Remember the maintenance OS? I can't get in there. None of the default usernames and passwords work. I don't know what's in there anyway. And these guys down here are unhappy because I pulled out all their ribbon cords in the off chance that maybe one of these is the problem and it's messing with the MSC. So far on the terminal, doesn't look like that's the case. So now it's party time. We're going to take this MSC and put it in here. Took the MSC out of here, cleaned it up a little bit, have it in here now. I could get into the initialization menus. It knows it has a in-progress initialization taking place. So I tried to get in where you start that over, basically recommunicate with these cards, I think, and it's just stuck. It's been this way for like 15 minutes. I think I'm in a bad state with that hard drive, the software on there, but I've got more. Let's try BCM 3.6. So here we are. That drive happens to have BCM 3.6 on it. The init status is pending. I'm starting to think it's normal to not see an MSC version sometimes. So we're in a totally fresh state. We go to Platform Initialization menu. I haven't really been explaining this very well. Then we go to the Initialize menu. And by this time, it has started seeing the PCI cards for whatever reason. So it knows it's got a LAN, a modem, MSC, and a LAN. We initialize the universal profile. And here it goes. It is going to try to set that thing up. I get to choose where I'm at. I'm in the US. So I'll choose option 1. And now it's going to go off and do its thing. This is how far I had gotten before. So you can see the init status is in progress once again with this hard drive. We'll see what happens. This is where I started hitting errors before and it would just loop. The documentation says this can take 40 minutes and it will restart itself many times. So even if I start seeing that same thing, I'm not going to touch it and let it do its thing for upwards of an hour. This is looking better. It's putting the MSC in upload mode. Seems to think it's going to need to upgrade something. I wasn't seeing this before. Yeah, it's doing stuff. Version 1.0 is on something, the MSC presumably. It's going to upgrade it to 2.0. And it is talking to the MSC. At least that, I'm just assuming that's what's happening based on these logs. Yes. It rebooted itself. The init status is still in progress. I'm not entirely sure how to watch it like I was before until it rebooted. Last time I got to step 1.2 and I'm at 1.7 now. I'm just going to leave it alone for a while. The fun continues. It's been about 40 minutes and it's restarted itself, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, but it's not getting any further in its initialization. It won't complete. I'm looking at the logs and it's complaining about bad PEC detected. That stands for Processor Extension Card, and it is Nortel's funny name for these PC MCIA cards. Isolate and replace the PEC. How do I figure out which one's bad? I think that's our problem though, because right when it is complaining, it then complains about bad PECs and then it restarts the machine. The documentation does go over the fact that you can replace these things. What do I do here? I don't know if they're, what I don't understand is if they're all created equal. Like the stuff on them is the same and it's somehow parallel processing. Older versions of BCM came with 2 of them. I think in 2.0 and up, and I was reading, comes with 4. Mine obviously have 4 of them. What to do here? Well, this MSC is obviously healthier. This one, I never saw complaints about the cards. These cards are the exact same part number, though my original unit, they were built a year before these. But same like identifying part numbers, they all have the same number. Maybe we reseat. Maybe I'll clean the contacts and reseat these existing ones first, and then we'll play the swap out game. I'm calling it. I can't figure it out. I spent the last few hours trying every different combination of things I could think of. I also validated that this hard drive is indeed bad, so he's no use to us. I tried swapping the PEC cards all over the place. I brought the original MSC back into the mix. It's definitely sketchier than this one. I saw both of them start to report bad PECs, which I hadn't seen before. And so I'm pretty sure throughout this process I had hosed the firmware on these. I figured out how to fix that. You can manually push the versions of whatever this thing needs to them with one of the menu items, and then you can get a little further in the init, and then bam, again, PEC bad errors. I also tried initializing with all these modules out with the good MSC card, or the okay MSC card. Still didn't work. I won't theorize too much, but perhaps I'm using too new a version of BCM for whatever's on these cards or this hardware configuration. I don't know, because you think Nortel would tell you that, as it was attempting to use the equipment. There could just be bad caps on these things. These cards could be legitimately bad, I suppose. That's also a possibility. I think I'm going to close this chapter of my life for a while. I really would have liked to have gotten these things working. Sorry to have dragged you along for so long. I was sort of getting hopeful the past 30 minutes of the video, where I was, like 8 hours in my time, where I was starting to actually see the things get further into the initialization process. I don't know. I'll ship this. Hopefully someone out there can tell me what I'm doing wrong. Hopefully it's something small and stupid and we can get these things online. I can't get them to initialize. I'm not too bent out of shape about this one being in bad shape. It was $70 shipping, which is actually a fair price. They're very heavy, and he packaged them really well, but he only charged $30, so it was like $100 total. But I did get spare parts to help me get a little further along. I got a motherboard and RAM and a CPU in there. So yeah, for $30, if you ignore the shipping, not too mad about having this. I think that's enough Nortel in my life for now. These things are, I think they're just complicated. I think the whole setup is just too many things can go wrong. I don't really like to post failure videos, but this is going to be one of them. It's time to just get this out into the world and receive some feedback on it. I'm on my way to 100,000 subscribers this year, so if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And I'm on Patreon, like I mentioned earlier in the video. I do behind-the-scenes type stuff, early releases, and you also get access to the Serial Port Discord. I got nothing to say. Thanks once again. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll catch you in the next video.